I'm Kay Castrotaro, and I'm the founder of Penlight, and I do all kinds of fun things writing. So I use a lot of journaling techniques, but I also teach memoir and poetry writing and do all kinds of process facilitation. I do lots of fun stuff. And Amy and I know each other from other settings, so I did not have her introduce herself either, which is not generally how I begin. Like, we'll usually introduce each other and, like, say something about one another. So, Amy, is there something you would like to say before we start sharing our rights for this class?
Um, just that I'm really excited to do this. It's just a really nice way to just pause and have a break and do something fun and creative. And I start school next week, so I'm glad just to be able to have some time to do something like this.
Oh, great. Well, that's what I want it to be. I want poetry to be fun. So, would you care to read either some of your story or your reflection, right?
Okay, you asked. You'll see. It was a balmy summer day when I walked into the light and heat that I had been avoiding in the basement. You might think finding a cool bit of respite in the basement would be refreshing, but it wasn't. I just spent 4 miserable hours in a class with a teacher who couldn't teach to save his life. It was not a fun day, and it was only a little before noon. I pushed my heavy feet to go forward towards my bus stop while feeling like I was inhaling a glass of water from the air. I stood there annoyed, tired, upset, and awfully hot. That is, until I saw it. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Oh, and it ends there?
Yeah, that's just where, like you said, I'm like, actually, that's kind of a fun place to end.
It is a fun place to end, and you have me sitting on the edge of my seat saying, "What happens next?" So,
Right.
so you may be asking, why did we start writing a story at the beginning of a poetry class? And the reason is because the type of poetry that we're talking about today, the ballad, is actually a narrative type of poem. So it tells a story. So I thought it might be fun to use a more traditional storytelling technique because sometimes when people are getting new to poetry or they just sit down to write poetry, they get a little stuck right at the beginning and they say, "Oh my gosh, it's a poem. It's got to rhyme. It's got to do this. It's got to do that," which is not at all true. None of those things are true about poetry. But even if you're going to try to do a form where that is true, that can sometimes get in your way. Excuse me. So I wanted to give us some juice to start working with. And if you choose to continue using this story for the rest of the night, that's awesome.
Right, we got a stanza.
You startled me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no, it's great. Okay, read it to me. I want to hear it.
Okay. Mm. Okay. The heat, the sun came shining down from out the basement dark as I emerge with saddened frown and restless heavy heart.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. That's
Well, it took
great.
long enough. You should.
You. All right, let me ask you something. When was
Yeah.
the last time you wrote poetry?
Seriously, probably about 5 years ago.
Okay, so 5 years ago.
Uh, 5 years ago, I was really into meter because I was substitute teaching English, so I was teaching it to the kids.
Ah,
Um,
so you were doing lots of meter and rhyme back then.
yeah, I was really like that. I had a flow then.
Oh,
Then I,
oh, wait a minute. Stop right there. You had a
yeah,
flow then. You had a flow then because it was something you were doing on a regular
exactly.
basis. So you're coming into this, like, first of all, you really even didn't know what the topic was because I didn't do a whole lot of, talking about which poems.
Sure.
So you were thrown into something that you haven't done in 5 years, and you're using all of these skills that are skills. And so they do get a little bit rusty and they go to the back of you know, I wrote a poetry book last year. So poetry is something that I've been working a lot with. And let me tell you, this is not something that I'm going to put in a poetry book. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I want to ask if you've got a takeaway. So I like to do takeaways at the end of a session so we kind of can say what did I learn or what did I get out of this? What did this mean to
Mm.
me?
Actually, I would say it was just really refreshing. The one of the things I really like about poetry is kind of the puzzle nature to it of trying to figure out words and make them fit. And so like I actually, even though it takes time, I like working through that. Um as like I yeah, it's like a fun puzzle.
Yeah, and my takeaway is just that I really love poetry. I love story and I love ballad because it takes story, poetry, and it mushes it all together in a way that can be really memorable. And I also feel like it's a really good entryway into other types of poetry because it does kind of get our brains thinking a little bit in the
Mhm.
rhyme and the meter thing. Um, so thank you for joining me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
all of you who are watching us out here, thank you for joining us as well. And hopefully we'll get to see you in the future with, yes, you can write poetry.
Definitely with a finished ballad.
Have a great night. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good to see you again.
You too. Bye.
Take care.